Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hello there. Welcome to today's episode with myself, Shane Craddock. I hope wherever you are in the world that you are in good health and in good mental state, Today we're talking about something that is within everybody's reach, but very few people do this until maybe it gets pointed out to them. And hopefully maybe today we can point it out to you even in 10 minutes or so. Now, in one of my programs, which is called Mind Shift, that I run usually once a year in the first quarter, there's an exercise that I get clients to do that shows them that they have the power to create emotions proactively and not reactively. Most people actually, when you get into it, they create emotions reactively. And we're going to kind of explore that a little bit. In the program, when I get into the exercise, they are calm and, they're generally in the program, so they're not too distracted. And then I get them to do a mental exercise which brings in stress. So they go from calm into feeling stress. And then I get them to relax their mind. And then I get them to do something mentally which brings in happiness. So all within about 5 to 6 minutes. So they're going from calm to stress, from stress to calm, from calm to happiness. And we kind of like to leave them in happiness because that's the nicer state. And what I'm showing them is that we are the ones who create emotions, and we can do it proactively if we decide we want to. It's actually a great gift, and it's something that everybody should do. It's really something that should be taught in schools. And my point is not to wait for circumstances to be right, to be the way you want them to be. Create the emotion proactively, regardless. And that is possible. Now, if you know me, or if you've listened to maybe a lot of these podcasts, certainly if you've worked with me, you'll know that I will say a better you does better in everything. So a better you, for me, is somebody who is working from the inside out, that inside you're in good form, you're clear, you're calm, you're centered, what I call a 3C state. And when you're in that kind of mental zone, you execute your talent. You do better in everything. You listen better, you communicate better, you manage stress better, problems don't stick at you as much. And if you get tired or cranky or your mood is down, then maybe you're not your best self. So to me, a better you really means a better feeling you, or you in a better mood. Now, for most people, and I certainly was here, because it's something that we've all been told, is that when I am X or when I get X, then I will feel Y. It's my little equation, right? So what's X? Well, it could be when I have more money or sales or profit, then I will feel Y, which I will feel better. I will feel happier. Or when my relationship is where I want it to be, or right or better, then I will feel more relaxed, happier, satisfied. Or when I have better health, then I will feel Y. Then I will feel better health, better shape, better fitness. Then I will feel happier. Then I will feel better. And everybody has different versions of this. And what I'm going to say to you is that equation is kind of universal. The equation, though, is flawed, because you don't need to get something to feel happiness. You don't need to get something to feel better. In fact, if that's a game you play, you'd probably be perpetually unhappy, because your mind, when it gets something, always wants something else. If you ever watched yourself, it's true. And I often think of a friend of mine who's paralyzed. If I'm having a day where I get caught out with that formula myself, which can happen. I think of my friend who's paralyzed, and you couldn't meet a happier person. You could not meet a happier person. This person cannot do physically as much as most people, probably you listening to this. But it's his attitude is different. And he chooses the emotion of happiness and contentedness regardless of circumstances. And if somebody can do that in that circumstance, why can't I? Why can't you? I'm also thinking of somebody else as I was preparing just to kind of share a few nuggets on this podcast. I'm thinking of somebody else that I met years ago who had more money than they could ever spend. And they go to a lot of beautiful places. They go on fantastic holidays. They have a couple of holiday homes. They have a superb car, an amazing house, but they're not happy. And if you meet them, they will say it's because they don't have the right relationship. It's just an area that seems to not really, for whatever reason, they can't seem to sort. But I think that for me, that's wrong, that they're creating the wrong emotion, that they can actually decide not to make as big a deal mentally out of it and actually to choose happiness now. Once you understand the dynamics of how emotions are created for that person, like everybody, and I can do it myself in different degrees, although radically less than what I used to do. I can choose not to react to something that my mind is saying, I need to have this, I need to have X to feel Y. If you step outside that equation and don't buy into it, okay, well, maybe I don't need X to feel Y. How do I feel Y? Well, if you want to feel happiness, for example, you can think about a happy memory. You can choose not to focus on the thoughts that are making you unhappy, which is probably a bigger move. When you realize that actually all of your feeling, all of it, 100% is created by thinking. 100%, not 99%. Happy to have an argument with you about this if you want, but I'm convinced it's 100%. So we are the emotion makers, and the emotions are created by what we focus on in terms of our thinking. Now, if you watch a child, you'll see that they have a range of emotions. I don't know. In an hour, they could go from ecstasy to agony to crying to anger to extreme serenity to love. It's amazing when you watch a child. And what's interesting about a child is that they don't have the cognitive control, I guess, to manage their emotions, maybe like an adult. But what you'll see that they have is this fluidity, that they don't really get stuck in an emotion. Adults can get stuck in emotions for lack of understanding of what I'm talking about. But it's innate. You'll see in a child the ability to move quickly from one emotion to the next. So it is innate. It's just that somewhere along the way, probably from a lack of education and a lack of awareness, we never got told this stuff. So I don't know. If you know somebody, and you probably do, who could benefit from hearing some of this stuff, it might sound a little bit weird at first. But I'm telling you, from my point of view, this is 100% true. I've learned it through recovering myself out of depression and getting rid of depression completely, and then seeing it with clients in terms of high performance, high achievements. It's just being able to enjoy the life you have and to enjoy the life you're creating, and then to ripple that enjoyment into other people. Just touching lightly on that depression time that I've spoken about at length in different parts of this podcast and in my book, The Inner CEO. You know, when I was in my depression, if you had said to me that I was creating my feelings of depression, to be honest, I probably would have punched you or tried to. You know, as far as I was concerned, I was depressed because of my circumstances. My life wasn't where my mind was telling me it should be. And I was creating really bad feelings inside myself that kind of spiraled downwards in a very dangerous way. So somebody could be listening to this. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're feeling depression. And so I get it. If you want to punch me, that's okay too. All I'm saying is that if you listen to this episode a couple of times, you might get a different angle, or maybe an awareness or different insight that, hold on a second here. If I look at where I'm putting my attention in terms of my thinking, am I playing to that formula of I got to have X to feel Y? Or am I building emotions inside myself? The reality is we are creating emotions all the time. Usually they're unconscious. But if you can practice creating emotions deliberately, like positive emotions deliberately, without waiting for the circumstances to be the way you want, then that is a potential game changer, I'm going to say. Not a potential, actually, it is a game changer. So most people will rely on an action perhaps to change how they feel. And that action could be exercise, food, alcohol, holidays, a hobby you really enjoy. That's an action. And they're all to be encouraged. But if you look at the underlying dynamic of what's happening is you're doing something that you're distracting your mind away from probably unhelpful thoughts that you don't enjoy. And so you associate that exercise or that action with the feeling. But it's the dynamic underneath that I'm most interested in, the inner dynamic. And the inner dynamic is you're taking your attention off perhaps what's bothering you, and you're putting that attention on something else. Okay, so The reality is that if you're looking to feel more secure in a relationship, you don't need a relationship to feel more secure. You can feel it now. If you want to feel tranquility, you don't need to be on a beautiful beach right now. Right now, you don't need to be there. You can actually bring in that feeling. How? I can think about the emotion tranquility. I can think about where I felt tranquil, or I can imagine something that maybe makes me feel tranquil. Places don't make emotions. People don't make your emotions. What makes emotions? You do. You create emotions by where you put your attention inside yourself. You could put it onto happy thinking, which will create happy emotions or positive emotions. You put it onto negative thinking, which will put on negative emotions. Ultimately, it's coming from your thinking, very often from the unconscious part of your thinking, though. And for me, that's one of the parts of my inner world that really excites me, is the exploration of that and realizing that, hold on a second here, if I can start to deliberately, proactively manage my emotions better every day, every morning, during the day, when I get caught out, reset, bring in positive emotions, it just allows me to be a better version of myself. That is, from my experience, 100% true. So what about you? Actually, before we talk about you, just a little note. A positive bit of news in my world is that my book, The Inner CEO, the audiobook, has just gone live on Spotify. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably the first person to hear about it. So it's there at the moment. If you like the podcast, the way we do it, it's obviously short and sweet. The book goes deeper. It's a deeper dive. It's a playbook for your entire life and business and everything else. So it's like to me, it's like a companion, a playbook. So if you're interested in going deeper, check out the book. So back to you. What about you? As a friend of mine says to me, enough about me. What do you think about me? Uh, so 2 challenges for you this week. 1, think about an area that you're not happy with. And instead of going into your usual mental chatter and emotions about it whenever you think about it, bring it out into the light and deliberately, for a few days, for a week, every day, amplify positive emotions around it. Think of a happy memory. Think of a future memory that would make you feel good. Or just deliberately ignore that area and just focus on a random memory that just makes you feel better. Could be nothing to do with that area. And maybe that's even a better one. Just go for something that actually makes you feel really good and brings up positive emotions, and do that at the start of your day. And speaking of the start of your day, the second challenge is, before your day starts, before you look at your phone, before you do anything to do with work, sit down and just identify 3 emotions that you want to amplify over about 5 minutes. For example, you could pick clarity, really clear. You could pick happiness. You could pick focus, even for work, because focus to me is an emotion and it's certainly a state of mind. And I would bring up memories, or sometimes I would create something in my imagination that would allow me to experience that feeling of clarity, happiness, of focus. But you can generate any emotion you want. It could be enthusiasm. It could be awe. It could be gratitude. Gratitude. Fill up your heart with that. I suppose that's as much as we're going to do today. To close out, your experience of life is in your inner world. It is in your inner world. And you are the master of those emotions. You can create them deliberately. And if you're only hearing this for the first time or considering that possibility, let me just assure you that is 100% available to you. So focus more on creating better emotions in your inner world, and it ripples effortlessly into your external world and starts to make positive change. That's it for this week. I hope it helps. Ciao for now.